Alright, all you moviegoers out there, welcome back to the Indy Radio Arcade. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not kidding, the pinball wizard, the person who brought this show together, yeah, he put a level cap on the show, and I'm not sure next week's gonna be possible unless I do what it says on this note, which involves something from the Golden Child. And if it has anything to do with standing on those planks or those wooden beams like they had in that movie, or doing any of those worthy one challenges, I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble by next week. But that's next week. This is now. And right now, folks, it's time for us to go into another edition of the 3MR. And the movie we have up on the plate to continue the sequels of movies that I wanted to see for the longest amount of time is none other than The Equalizer 2. And this was a movie we've been trying to watch for well over a year and a half now? Yeah, just about a year and a half. Which is nuts, and the fact that we were able to see it prior to the Indy Radio Arcade this week is pretty cool. And the meat and potatoes of this said sequel, folks, involves our hero Robert McCall looking out for the little guy like he always does, up until when his best friend Susan and former work partner was unfortunately killed in a cover-up, leaving him to go out to find the people who did it in the first place, only for his past to catch up with him, in more ways than one. And like we usually do with sequel-like films, folks, especially with a movie like this, we might as well do to sequel or not to sequel. And with the fact of how action-packed this movie is compared to the first one, yeah, I got a feeling a sequel, it was necessary, but at the same time, with him tying up all the loose ends in the first one, not too entirely sure if this second one was needed, but at least it covered the origin story of how he came to be and why he is who he is. Now, right off the bat for this film, folks, the first thing that I absolutely loved about it, and I hate to go into the actors first before I say all the action sequences and whatnot, but Denzel Washington. That was the one thing that I absolutely loved about this film because, like I said on a multitude of occasions, this guy could be either the greatest good guy you've ever seen in a motion picture or the worst villain you'll ever see in a motion picture. And if you want a comparison besides this movie series, go watch, and I really do recommend you go ahead and watch Training Day, because, yeah, he really does play a good bad guy in that film, just like he can play a good guy in this one. Which is always a wonderful thing, and it tells you the range of the acting skill of one Denzel Washington. And since we're on actors, folks, a couple of the other actors that was featured during this film, like Pedro Pascal, who was featured during the movie known as The Kingsman, The Golden Circle, by the way, but then you also have Ashton Sanders, who was featured during the said movie of Straight Outta Compton, plus other great movies, and even Bill Pullman. For those who don't know who that actor is, he was featured during such classic films such as Independence Day, Casper, and even during the classic film of Spaceballs. Instant classic, folks, that I still need to review one day, but we keep forgetting. Another thing that I loved about this film, to go back to what we said earlier about the action sequences, definitely was something that we absolutely loved about this film. And for any of you fans of the first film of Denzel Washington actually using time to actually take these guys out, yep, he does it again in this said film, which was absolutely awesome and crazy to see at the same time of how quick and efficient this man is at his job, whatever that may be. And also another thing that I loved about this movie is the fact that he's able to live a double life so smoothly in this brand new, fresh neighborhood outside of the neighborhood he was in the first film. So the fact that this man could just blend in to different environments and be a friendly guy to people who are friendly to him and just turn that switch to magically become who he is in reality is another thing that blew my mind about this said film. And since we don't want to spoil anything about this said film or any of the cool action sequences that would happen during this said film, one quote that we absolutely loved about this film was said by Ashton Sanders, who played the boy in this film named Miles Whitaker, who actually said the quote, "If you forget to remember somebody out loud who died, they died twice." Which was a quote that actually stuck with me the entire movie, especially on the path that this kid was heading on, that Denzel Washington in this movie was able to set him on the right course. So that was something that definitely stuck with me from this film, and the only spoiler we're going to give you for this film for this week, instead of all of the cool John Woo things that this guy can do in the film. And seeing the fact that we don't know how to review movies along the lines of Siskel and Ebert or any of those other famous movie reviewers that you know of out there, we say this. If you want to watch a movie of a sequel of a guy who's living an ordinary life but at the same time doing more vigilante justice than Batman without Commissioner Gordon or anybody else on his back, all while trying to fight his past and even trying to gain a little bit of redemption along the way, then I recommend you go out there and watch that flick. And trust me, folks, this is one that you will not regret seeing. Trust me, even though it's a sequel. And with that said, folks, we might as well head back into the music, and when we return, we'll be back with more of the Indie Radio Arcade right after a word from our sponsors. So don't run out of quarters just yet, folks, and stay tuned.